All right, welcome to a live chat here on a Thursday afternoon. 49ers are in week 2 of OTAs. I was out there on Wednesday, yesterday. Pretty much the full team practice. Of course, the guys who are injured weren't out there. No Ricky Pearsall, no, should I go through the list? Brandon Aiyuk, no Malik Mustafa, no Jair Brown. Juwan Jennings was rehabbing or doing something in the weight room. Maybe that was just a vet day off. Never got any word on that. Trent Williams went through individual work, but did not practice in the 11-on-11 stuff. Anybody else? Curtis Robinson was out there, but I didn't see, he wasn't practicing. He's going through ACL as well. So at this point in the year, it's very difficult to say anything about the offensive and defensive lines because they're not wearing pads. They're really not doing stuff that's applicable to real football. So most of what you see is on the passing game. It's how the quarterback and the receivers are working together. It's how the defensive backfield is working together. And from that standpoint, I think both sides of the ball had their moments. I think the 49ers look very good at the cornerback positions with Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green. Even some of the backups made plays, guys who are going to be fighting for roster spots. And then you have Upton Stout trying to kind of gain his way as a nickelback. Chase Lucas, who played the nickelback position with the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago, and last year was basically inactive for the entire season while on the practice squad. He's looking pretty good too. I think this year the goal really is for the 49ers to have a true nickelback. And ever since K'Wan Williams left, they've kind of just been patching that stuff together. Now is the time for them to have a guy that they can just kind of lock in and nickelback. And the main guy would be, is this working? Tell me it's working. Tell me it's working. Okay, that's good. I don't think my mic is working. So I think maybe it's just, I don't think it is working. My mic anyway, my Yeti. Anyway, you can hear me okay though? Yeah. So anyway, that's what the 49ers are doing right now, kind of working through the passing game part of it. There's a few running plays out there, but without pads and everything else, kind of irrelevant. One of the guys, there's the rookies who are being asked to make an immediate contribution. And that is, you just go through the list of the draft picks that the 49ers had. Michael Williams expected to make an immediate contribution. You look at Alfred Collins, expected to make an immediate contribution. Nick Martin, an immediate contribution. Upton Stout, CJ West. So those guys are being counted upon to step in and play good football. In some cases, be a starter, and be an every down player, such as Nick Martin. In other cases, to play their roles, to be rotational players. Michael Williams, obviously, they expect more than just being a rotational player from him. And I think one of the things the 49ers did with the addition of Bryce Huff is that it kind of opens the door for them to try some different things defensively with their pass rush, mixing and matching, also taking advantage of what the opposition shows, perhaps where their weaknesses are, moving guys around. And I think they will have a lot of different players that they can kind of fit into base downs as well as nickel downs. For instance, Yetur Gross-Matos is somebody, who could play and will play defensive end and base downs. Michael Williams is somebody who can and will play defensive end and base downs. Both of those players also have the capability of sliding inside and rushing the passer in nickel situations. And that would give the 49ers, just think about this pass rush, potentially kind of a NASCAR type of pass rush with Bosa on one end, Bryce Huff on another end, and then the inside guys, again, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, whatever the case may be, Yetur Gross-Matos and Michael Williams rushing from inside. So that's kind of where the 49ers are right now as they look to kind of figure out how they want to, get things going for the start of training camp. The other thing, I wanted to mention how I'm burying the lead. Folks, our long national nightmare is over. Aaron Rodgers has a team. He reportedly has agreed to a 1-year contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sorry, couldn't contain myself there. 49ers don't play the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, so that's neither here nor there. Obviously, the 49ers have had a lot of success against Aaron Rodgers when he was with the Packers, and then last year opening the season with a blowout victory over the Jets. So that's where we are right now. 49ers schedule not loaded, obviously, with a bunch of heavyweights. So you're looking for reasons for optimism for the 49ers heading into this season. I can list quite a few of them, and let's start with that. The regular season schedule does not look formidable. And then, the guys at the 49ers are kind of hoping that, the guys who were injured last year will be available, will get healthy, stay healthy, and be major contributors throughout the season. So that's where the 49ers are. Christian McCaffrey, through this part of the offseason program, the arrow is certainly pointing up on him. 49ers will be improved at the linebacker position this year as opposed to last year. Obviously, they wanted to bring back Dre Greenlaw, but they did not get that done. But they didn't have Dre Greenlaw last year either. And Devondre Campbell was pretty much a disaster. Started to play okay and then quit on the team late in the year. D. Winters looks like he's made some strides this year, but Nick Martin adding him to the mix will certainly help out. So that's where the 49ers are. Trent Williams is out there. He's back at the OTAs. Did not take part in the 11-on-11 practice, and whether he will this coming week remains to be seen. So that's kind of the quick rundown. Brock Purdy looks like he's spinning it pretty well. Whether he's increased his arm strength, typically players do early in their career. And so I know he's been working with his private quarterbacks coach in the Jacksonville area, but he looks like he's spinning it pretty well. Mac Jones gives the 49ers a better backup than they've had in quite some time. Well, I shouldn't say that. Darnold 2 years ago was a pretty good safety blanket for the 49ers. Last year, they kind of struggled at the backup quarterback position. Brandon Allen, he was the guy for most of the year. When Dobbs got in, he played pretty well that final game of the season. But Mac Jones met with the media for the first time on Wednesday, and he just talked about how, he's admired the 49ers offense and how when he looks at the stats, they're always right there, top 5 in the league. And so now he's coming in, learning new footwork, new terminology, new way of doing things. And really, when you think about it, he's been in the league now. This is going on 5 years, basically 5 different offensive systems for Mac Jones. So from that standpoint, kind of reminds me a lot of Alex Smith, how he just really never had a chance to gain any continuity or comfortability with the offense. Now, it was different, of course. Those days with the 49ers, they had defensive-minded head coaches, and their offensive coordinators, the first 2 of them under Mike Nolan, left for head coaching jobs. And then the 49ers really struggled to find somebody in that realm after that until Jim Harbaugh came along and brought Greg Roman with him. Thanks again for tuning in to this 49ers Live. We'll keep this going as long as it kind of seems like we're kind of moving forward here and not spinning our wheels. So just going to check out the comment section and see what's on your mind. How's Nick Martin looking? He looks good. Number 45 for the 49ers, Nick Martin, coming over from Oklahoma State. Had a really good 2023 season, just kind of stuffed the stat sheet, and then kind of fell off last year as he dealt with some injuries. But a guy who looks kind of like Dre Greenlaw in the way that he plays the game, kind of that aggressiveness, that ferocity. And so the 49ers didn't necessarily say, hey, let's go out and get a Dre Greenlaw type of player. But the fact of the matter is the types of players they like are like Dre Greenlaw, those kinds of guys. And it's a really good match for a player lining up alongside Fred Warner to have somebody like that who's kind of playing on the edge a little bit or a lot of bit. So right now, Nick Martin looks pretty good. He did make some plays in practice yesterday, again, showing the ability to be somebody who is good in coverage. And he's playing the will linebacker position, the weak side linebacker spot. So that's the spot that stays on the field through all downs, unless they go to their dime package, which is 6 defensive backs. But I would say right now, just kind of projecting out a bit from where they drafted him to what he's shown now to where he can get to, I think Nick Martin will be the guy who's starting for the 49ers on day one. That's just my projection. D. Winters is going to have something to say about that. So how's Nick Martin looking? He's good. What do we got here? Any indication on when we'll see Alfred Collins play? Pretty excited for him. I would think the preseason. Oh, by the way, speaking of the preseason, 49ers are doing something kind of interesting this year. In the past, when they've held joint practices, they've practiced for 2 days against a particular team, taking a day off, and then they play the preseason game. And typically when they play that preseason game, none of the starters, none of the guys, the regular players, none of the Kittles, Purdy, Williams, Bosa, Warner, so on and so forth, none of those guys play in the game. This year, they're doing 2 joint practices, and the dates on those games, I should have this committed to memory, but I don't. What they're doing is they're going to be practicing against the Las Vegas Raiders. And that practice will be, let's see, where's my schedule? Do I not have it? Oh, there it is. So they practice. Okay, first off, Denver. So the preseason game against Denver is at Levi Stadium, and that's August 9th, and that is at 5:30 p.m. So the day before, August 8th, will be a day off. But then August 7th, the Broncos will be at Levi Stadium or right there in Santa Clara next to Levi Stadium for a joint practice. So that'll be fun. First opportunity to kind of break the monotony of training camp. But of course, at that point, there's really not a monotony because it's only been going on for less than 2 weeks. So one practice against the Denver Broncos. And that will be very interesting because that'll be the first time that Talanoa Hufanga will be out there against his former teammates. Of course, DJ Jones. I'm not sure that Dre Greenlaw will be able to practice. He had that quad injury while working out recently. So he might be somebody that they bring along a little bit slower. And frankly, with the padded practice going on, I'm not sure the 49ers want to be up against Dre Greenlaw in a practice because he has a really difficult time turning it down a few notches. Okay, and then a week later, on August 14th, the 49ers will be in Las Vegas, or I believe it's I believe it's Henderson, Nevada, is where the Raiders training camp is, or where their facility is. So the 49ers and the Raiders will be practicing against each other, with each other, however you want to term it. That'll take place August 14th, and then the preseason game is August 16th in Vegas. And then the 49ers return back home, and they finish off the preseason August 23rd against Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers. So, but that question about Collins, the Collins situation, the Marquise Siegel situation, those injuries the 49ers knew about when they drafted him. They knew that they weren't going to have them for the offseason program, but the idea is for those guys to be ready for training camp. I'm sure they'll kind of ease them in a little bit and take it from there. Hey, we got 14 thumbs ups. Let's see if we can get to 20. No, I'm really not that driven by ego, but I know somebody had said, let's do some thumbs up faithful. So let's see if we can get to, that number. There's a 15. Thank you very much. Okay. We're moving right along. Let's see here. Thanks for the information. Pine Needle. Thank you. Ty, what's up? Ty says, Nick Martin reminds me of a mix of Warner and Greenlaw, which is a good thing. Yeah, I don't think he has the length of a Warner, doesn't have the size of a Warner, but quite clearly, the 49ers had their eye on him as somebody who could step in. And when you think about it, all the spots that they took immediately, I know they were going to say, and they have said that it was, best player available and all of that. And there probably is some truth to that, but you can't tell me that it lined up that perfectly for the 49ers. They had needs. They had needs at a defensive end. They took Michael Williams. They had need at defensive tackle. They take Alfred Collins. They had a need at linebacker. They took Nick Martin. They had a need at nickelback, Upton Stout. And frankly, after releasing two defensive tackles, there's two starting defensive tackles, they had another need at defensive tackle, and they took CJ West. So yes, there were some offensive players that were in their wheelhouse and on their draft board, and that they considered taking, and some defensive players they would have taken if those players had not been chosen in the spot or two leading up to the 49ers draft pick. But it seems very convenient. Oh, wow, we're up to 26. It seems very convenient that it just so happened that the positions they took were also extreme positions of need. So, you always want to balance that. I think as a team, you don't want to reach for a player because you need a player at that position. But you also don't want to waste a pick by, if you have three really good inside linebackers, you don't need a fourth. So anyway, let's see. What else do we have here? You can ask me non-49ers questions. It is wide open, whatever. Now I might choose to ignore them, but anything you that's on your mind, feel free. Here we go. Here's this one. How does the media get to view the team during the offseason and training camp? Okay, so the rules are, the NFL has rules on this. 49ers used to, back in the day when they had, they had coaches. Well, let me back up. Bill Walsh, I know a long time ago, but Bill Walsh, and I never covered Bill Walsh when he was a coach. I covered him when he was an executive, but he wanted the media to watch the 49ers practices because he was so self-confident about the job he was doing. He did not want the media after a game to say, what were you trying to do there? He was so self-confident in the way he was doing things. His idea was he wanted the media to see how well prepared the team was, what his vision was for the upcoming game. And then, they could kind of make their own decision of were they prepared for that, or was it just the players screwing up if things went wrong? Now, that wasn't the sole purpose for that. Also, times were a lot different. There wasn't social media. It was basically only newspapers, and the news wasn't generated with the immediacy that it is now. I mean, frankly, there's never been a better time to be a sports fan, because if there's an answer to be had out there, there it is. It's readily available. But so anyway, now with the offseason program, or the organized team activities, which are the first practices of the offseason, the NFL mandates that every team has to open up one practice session a week to the media. For the mandatory minicamp, those have to be open entirely. And a lot of this is checks and balances, because if teams are doing stuff they shouldn't be doing and we report on it, then the team, that's kind of what keeps the team in line a little bit. Once training camp begins, then all the practices are open to the media until, now I'm trying to think of the rule. It used to be after the third preseason game. It still might be after the third preseason game, which now there are 3 preseason games. Once that third preseason game hits, then teams can close practices entirely to the media, and then they have to open the locker room. Right now, the locker room is not open to us. If we have a request for a player, they bring them out to us, or they have them at the podium, or whatever the case may be. So what was I going to say? So so training camp open to the media, and then once the season starts, or once they close practices, they still have to have a couple of periods open, which is basically the warm-up periods, the individual stuff. But once the practice begins, as far as putting in game plan stuff, that's when they kick the media out. So there will be a point in, whatever that is, late August, early September, where we have seen the 49ers final practice. We won't be able to watch and see how they practice, because they close that off during the season. But going back to what I was saying about Bill Walsh, he would keep practices open for its entirety, and the media could just walk out, watch practice, and whenever they wanted, walk back in. That changed with Jim Harbaugh. Every coach for the 49ers had open practices until Jim Harbaugh. And I remember I told him when he made that decision that he was closing practice, I said, they've always had practices open here. And I remember he said to me, he goes, "They've always done that?" Now remember, the 49ers were really bad when Jim Harbaugh took over that team. He goes, "So they've always done that?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, seems to me that that didn't work out so well. So this is how we're doing it." So, all right. So that's a question on practices. Ty, I did answer that about there is one joint practice against the Raiders, and that'll be 2 days before that preseason game in Las Vegas. Let's see here. I see Junior Bergen doing drills with the wide receivers. Do you see him make any catches during team drills? I don't think I have seen him make a catch. He's a wide receiver. That's where he's getting his work, but also looks very sure-handed returning punts or fielding punts. So yesterday practice with Trent Taylor now out for the season with a back injury. The 3 guys who are back there fielding punts, Jacob Cowing, Junior Bergen, and Jordan Watkins. I would say of the 3, Watkins looks probably a little bit the most shaky fielding punts. Maybe they'll come around, but it's also a good way for a wide receiver, especially a young guy, to just get work in and get comfortable catching the football. But I don't know that Bergen, Bergen's ticket to making the team is as a return man. Any notes on how this team matches up size-wise? Hearing the squad is pretty undersized in the wide receiver and secondary departments. How they match up size-wise? Well, getting Juwan Jennings on the field certainly increases the size of the wide receiver position. Brandon Aiyuk has decent size at the wide receiver position. I don't see that as being a big deal. At the cornerback spot, Renardo Green has good size. Diamador Lenore is, when you have size at the cornerback position, there's a saying I know that what do you call a cornerback that that you want to have good size? You call them a safety. So I don't necessarily see that as a big thing in the safety position. You're talking guys right now. The safeties are Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. Now, when Jair Brown, when Malik Mustafa come back, we'll see what happens there. Certainly Mustafa, when he's healthy from the ACL surgery, I would think would be a starter. And Jair Brown, Pinnock is in that conversation. But now I don't necessarily see the size of those position groups as being something that is any kind of red flag. You can play or you can't play, and size does matter. Yeah, okay. I know I kind of walked into that one, but also it's more important. There are a lot of really good cornerbacks who are 5'10", 5'8", or whatever, 5'10", 5'11". And then Stout, of course, is a smaller guy at 5'8". I think he's listed at. But at that position, man, it's so important to have that lateral quickness and the ability to stop and have a low center of gravity, because you, as a nickelback, you don't have the sideline to help you as a defender. Let's see here. Yeah, smash that button. Smash that like button. We're up to 30. Any concerns talking to coaches that Collins' lingering injury will run into the start of the season? No, there isn't, because they did know about that going in. So, he had a 30 visit. They were able to check him out. So I don't think there's any concern about that. But, we'll see. I mean, the clock starts ticking when the team reports to training camp. You're able to report to training camp, I think 15 days before the start of the first preseason game. So all this stuff, is a little bit premature, just kind of like how Brandon Aiyuk, we don't know exactly what his status is. Where will he be? And the Friars have been very careful not to put any kind of time frame. There was a point in February where Kyle Shanahan said that he had dealt, or maybe it was during March, where he said that Brandon Aiyuk had a visit with the surgeon who did that, Neil Elatrosh, and said that there is a chance that Aiyuk could be ready for the start of the regular season. I think the Friars will certainly err on the side of caution with that. And so my guess, and it's only a guess, is that he'll start training camp on PUP. And again, my guess, if I were to take a guess, which I am right now, is that he'll start the regular season on PUP, which would be 4 games on the sideline. Let's see here. What do we got? That's about, here we go. Do you think Jair Brown is on a short leash this year? How likely do the 49ers use the cap space for a good safety like Justin Simmons? They do have cap space, and I would think that they have cap space and they also have draft capital. And it was just kind of funny. I was checking in with somebody kind of high up on the totem pole about 2 days before they made the trade, or at least news got out of the trade of Bryce Huff from the Eagles. And if you'd heard me previously, I'd said that I thought the 49ers would more than likely make a trade for a veteran player after the draft. When I checked in again, it was more along the lines, what I was told was more along the lines of, an Emmanuel Sanders trade, or a Christian McCaffrey trade, or a Chase Young trade. Charles Omenihu, he was another one, I think. Guys at near the trade deadline, where you kind of poach some players or a player off a team that's going nowhere, get them on the final year of their contract, give up a fourth or fifth or sixth round pick, and then have that player kind of a rented hand and then a hired hand to finish out the season, and then probably lose them to free agency, and then a year down the road, maybe pick up a compensatory pick. So they did make the trade for Bryce Huff. And it's very much what we kind of thought it would be, right? A fourth round pick, a fifth round pick, because that's where the 49ers compensatory picks are kind of lining up to be in 2026. All that said, I still think that that possibility is out there for them to add a player. And if you were to ask, which you did, which position lines up most likely to add a player, I think it'd be the safety position. But a lot of that probably is contingent on how Jair Brown's coming along, how Malik Mustafa's coming along, as well as Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. Pinnock was he's been a regular starter in this league. It was very clear that he signed with the 49ers not to be a backup, but to be a starter. Justin Simmons is the name that's kind of bandied about. I don't know if, at this point, I think if he had a lot to offer, he'd be already on a team. If there were a starting spot for him somewhere, he'd already be on a team. Or maybe he just wants more money and he hasn't gotten it yet, or he wants a better situation where he can kind of look at how training camp is going, where teams have needs at the safety position. And, if there's a contender type of team that needs a safety, he'd be available. But are the 49ers in the market for a safety? I don't think they are right now. But as with any position on their team, that can change based on just how things look here as time goes on. Okay. Let's see. Any concerns about Collins holding out? No. The holdouts. You're talking about. I guess you're assuming you're talking about the contract situation. There's no contracts. Really aren't a thing anymore for draft picks. The last time I really even thought about rookies and their contracts was probably the Michael Crabtree situation, which is a story on itself. What year was that? 2009. Man, that was a long time ago. And what a day I had at the East Palo Alto Doubletree. Michael Crabtree, MC Hammer, Parag Marate, Jed York. There was a lot of craziness that day. And raise your hands if you remember that story. And then that was at the very beginning of social media, or one of the first times that I kind of started to see the impact of social media and people following along with my play-by-play from the hotel lobby. And I made a very conscious decision not to say where I was, because I didn't want other media members to show up and do the play-by-play that I was doing during those Michael Crabtree contract negotiations. Let's see here. If Matt gets to 40 likes, he will tell us a story from his days with Mindy Bach. So hit that like button. Oh, you know what? There was. That's are we at 40 likes? One more like. Okay, there we go. There's 40. That would probably be the story. I was such good friends with Mindy, and I wasn't in NBC Sports Bay Area at that point. But Mindy called to ask, where are those negotiations taking place? And any other person, I would have said, go kick rocks. But for Mindy, I said, I'm at that hotel. And one of the funny things was, I remember when Crabtree was leaving, a couple good things about this story. when Crabtree was leaving, now they had a room. MC Hammer got a room at that hotel for negotiations to take place. And this was during the season. This was like 5 games into the season, and he still hadn't signed his contract because he thought he was the number one receiver in that draft. And he, by all accounts, he was, until the Raiders took Darius Hayward-Bay a few spots before him. Well, he thought he should have been paid more than Darius Hayward-Bay, even though he was taken a few spots later. So he held out, and things got contentious. And I remember when Crabtree left got off the elevator, and he was going through the restaurant at this hotel. And I remember me and Mindy going after him. Hey, Michael. And Mindy was running with these and making this clip clop sound in the restaurant as we're trying to get a comment from Michael Crabtree, who clearly didn't want to talk to us. The other part of that story is, and I didn't even know this story until Tim Kawakami wrote about it sometime later, like months later. Kawakami was doing a kind of a story or a blog post on how social media has changed sports. And Jed York told him about a story that on that particular day, when Crabtree was getting into the car that would whisk him away, he told MC Hammer, let's get this done. Well, one of the people who worked the door at this hotel told me that. He's like, yeah, when Crabtree got into the car, he told MC Hammer, let's get this done. So I tweeted that out, overheard from Michael Crabtree, get this done. Well, sometime later, Jed gets a phone call from Parag Marate saying, hey, they want this additional stuff added to the contract. And Jed York said, absolutely not. Mayoko just tweeted that Crabtree said as he got into his car, let's get this done. So he's ready to make a deal. Let's not give them anything more. They didn't. The deal got signed, and Michael Crabtree was on the field that Wednesday, and that's how his 49er career began. So my Mindy Box story would be that she and I going through the restaurant, this is middle of the day, empty restaurant, and her making those clip clop sounds running through. And then also, if you remember, Crabtree had a foot injury leading into the draft. I don't think he worked out at all during the draft. And so I was able to report as well that Michael Crabtree's foot looks just fine. So the 49ers are getting themselves a healthy wide receiver. All right. What do we got here? Haven't heard much about Darrell Luter Jr. Is this a make or break year for him? How does he fit into the DB's room? Appears to be very deep going into training camp. Yeah, I would say this definitely is a make or break year for Darrell Luter. He's been a guy, you talked about the size of the cornerback room, and he does have good size. Just hasn't been able to put it all together quite yet. So he'll be competing. Right now it looks to me like the number 3 cornerback job wide open. And as we've seen, a lot of attrition at the cornerback position. It's tough for the same cornerbacks, the same 2 outside cornerbacks to remain on the field the entire year. It's just a lot of wear and tear on the body. So Darrell Luter, Trey Brown, and others will be competing for that job with Upton Stout as the nickel back. I don't think that they'll move him to the outside, but I would say Luter very much in the mix to be a guy who can win a roster spot, but he also has to play well on special teams in order to solidify that. But make or break year for Darrell Luter? Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the night I became Twitter famous, Ty says. You remember it well. What do we got here? Let's see. For the old timers, did you ever have any interactions with the former color analyst, Wayne Walker? I did not. I know a lot of people who worked with him. But no, I didn't. He's one of those legends. He used to do, I guess, probably when the 49ers, this was before their Super Bowls and well, in those early years as well. He was at KPIX, the news or the sports director there, but also worked for CBS on the network side. So he was a color analyst for a lot of those games, if memory serves correctly. But a really good football player with the Detroit Lions, and then kind of carved out his niche as a broadcaster later on. But no, did not know the late Wayne Walker. Let's see here. Yeah, I got stories for days about the 49ers. Let's see. Was Colt Anderson available to the media when the offensive and defensive coaches spoke with the media? If so, no, he wasn't. Colt and Brant Boyer, the special teams coordinator, kind of tied at the hip there. Colt Anderson, the assistant special teams coach, not available. So, the guys who are available on Tuesday were the position coaches and Gus Bradley, who is a very high energy guy, has a really good air about him. And, he's here, as he says, to do whatever Robert Saleh wants him to do and help out in any way possible. But no, I have not met Colt Anderson, the assistant special teams coach, yet. The DB room is stacked. Luter has the measurables. I wouldn't say it's stacked, but I do think that their starters have a chance to be really good. I do think that I think Diamado Lenore is really good. I think he earned that contract, and I would expect his game to take another leap forward. And I think Renardo Green is made of the right stuff. We've seen cornerbacks here who came on as rookies and played well in spurts, and then fell off the face of the earth in the second year. We saw that with two guys who come to mind. Akella Weatherspoon bounced back, came back the second year and just wasn't up to it. Ambry Thomas was one of those guys who also finished strong as a rookie and just wasn't up to it. So we'll see if Renardo Green is made of the right stuff and can take that momentum from last season and carry it over. I expect special teams to be vastly improved this season. So do I. And they have given Brant Boyer not necessarily carte blanche, but kind of to remake special teams how he wants it to be made. So new long snapper, new punter. They have a kicker who's competing with Jake Moody, but I still think Jake Moody's going to be the guy. I don't think we've seen a Jake Moody question yet, which is a shock. And then some core special teams guys who are coming in. Saran Neal is one. Luke Gifford is one. Chaz Surratt is one. I'm sure I'm missing some. Richie Grant is another. I think those are the main guys. Maybe I'm missing one. But all that is Brant Boyer, figure out what you want, and then the personnel department went and got him. Should we consider the defensive moves pretty much done? Yes, I would say consider pretty much all the moves pretty much done. How does Isaac Grindo look? Well, he always looks good. He's got that speed. He's got the size, the speed, the pass catching ability. So that'll be a really interesting competition. I think Isaac Grindo is going to win that job to be the backup, but Jordan James is somebody that the 49ers really like a lot as well. Need more safeties. I would agree with that, or at least they got to keep their eyes open for more safeties if Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa, if it's looking like they might need more time. Third cornerback is open. Yes. What I mean by that is I don't consider the nickelback the third corner. I consider the nickelback its own position. So I'm talking about the outside guy. If Diamador Lenore goes down or he needs, his shoestring breaks. Same with Renardo Green. If that chin strap just isn't clicking the way it should be and he has to sit out a couple of plays, who do the 49ers turn to at that point? I don't think it'd be Upton Stout to play the outside. So I'm talking about the outside cornerback position. I do think that that's wide open, kind of like I believe that, the backup offensive line positions are wide open right now. I'd say Spencer Burford is odds on to be the swing tackle. And then, the inside guys, Nick Zakel, Matt Hennessy, some of those guys, Connor Colby will get an opportunity as well. Oh boy, here's a big one. New York, Chicago, or Detroit style pizza, all of the above. I have a friend who has a daughter who just started working for the Chicago Fire. And so she's just moved to Chicago, getting acclimated with everything. And I said, go to Lou Malnati's. And the answer was, what is, or who is that? And I said, well, it's a Chicago style pizza place. Lou Malnati's, probably my favorite in Chicago. And the response was, don't like Chicago style pizza. And my first thought was, how can you not like Chicago style pizza? Just like, how can you not like New York style pizza or Detroit style pizza? So I am equal opportunity pizza. And I don't know if that's a controversial take. I don't think it is. I think to say that any one of those styles is off, I know you can have a preference, but man, I think that some days I might wake up going, give me a New York style pizza. Sometimes that feels right. Sometimes, now I'd say this, could probably eat New York style pizza every day of the week. I can't say the same for Chicago or Detroit style pizza. I think those are more occasion types of pizzas. I'm surprised that you guys just aren't commenting on that and riffing on my pizza take. I want to hear your pizza take. Come on, there's got to be something there, right? Come on, people. Let's hear it. Okay, what else do we have here? Cole Anderson was another University of Montana legend who carved out an NFL career as a special teams guy. The entire special team staff has a connection to Junior Bergen. That is absolutely true. Bergen looks really smooth. Did I post something on social media? I don't think I did. But watching him field punts, he does look very comfortable doing that. Let's see here. How does Marquis Siegel look? Another guy that they drafted him knowing that he wouldn't be available. Don't know exactly what his injury situation is or procedure that he's recovering from or not, but 49ers went into it eyes wide open. Safety, special teams guy, good speed, good size, should be a factor on special teams, but won't see him until training camp. Let's see here. How does Bryce Huff look? He hasn't, here's the thing with Bryce Huff is that it was quite clear, the Eagles made that decision early on that Bryce Huff was not going to be on the team this year due to his salary and everything else, and that the deal was going to be made in June to trade him for salary cap purposes. I think the 49ers and the Eagles had that deal done long ago. So Bryce Huff remained away from the Eagles offseason program, and then he reported this week to the 49ers offseason program. What I saw from him on Wednesday was just doing some individual stuff, not full speed. So he's trying to, get his conditioning under him. 49ers want to see where he is, and then maybe next week he'll get on the field. So probably an answer better for next week. Because this is the first time I've ever seen him, so we'll see next week. But where I think he fits in is pass rush specialist, not a base down guy, just a guy who's going to line up on that 9 technique and go get the quarterback. Let's see here. Let's see. We got Spencer Burford. Yep, he's my guy. I think for the swing tackle. Do you think signing Mack for 2 years was more for depth or trade value? I would say depth. Yeah, definitely depth. Here's the thing is that if he doesn't get on the field, his trade value will be virtually non-existent. So if something were to happen, let's go back to the Brock Purdy. Let's just say that Brock Purdy's quads get so big that they can't find football pants for him to wear, and he has to sit out a couple of weeks. See, that's my way of, I don't like to talk about injuries. So let's just say that that's the case. Then they need Mac Jones for that depth. And then it would be, if he plays really well in, say, 2 or 3 starts or whatever the case may be, then there would be an opportunity for him. He's still a young guy. So initially, definitely for depth, because there would be no trade value if he doesn't get on the field. At least, with Sam Darnold, he was able to get on the field a little bit for the 49ers. And then, of course, all the reports coming out of San Francisco from myself and others during that time, even when he wasn't playing, was that, man, he throws the ball so well in training camp. He looks so good. In fact, I think I made some controversial statements during that time, which nobody, by the way, ever denied. Anyway, let's see here. Are you adventurous in your culinary delights while on the road? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. What's that dish? Is it a dish in the Philippines? Is it, what's it called? Bulak or bulop? Bulak. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't even really want to describe it because it's so, I don't know, gross. It's basically, I think you guys know what I'm talking. Well, some of you will. And for those of you who do know what I'm talking about, there it is, bulat. Yes. So is that, or balat? Balat? So I don't get that crazy. I don't get that adventurous with my food. But I do, certainly when I'm on the road, that's one of the few things, or one of the things that I believe in. If you're on the road, you're in a new city, go to the spots. So yes, I do. I have always enjoyed going to new places. And one of the great things that this job has given me is the opportunity to see the United States, and in some cases see the world. London, Mexico City. Little known fact: in 1998, went up to Vancouver, and that's where I met my wife, in Vancouver, on a 49ers trip. Now, she's from the Bay Area, but I met her up there in Vancouver. So maybe that's a story in itself. But yeah, I always enjoy going to restaurants. And then over time, 30 seasons covering the NFL, you get your own, you have your spots. One of my favorite spots is in New Orleans, a place called Pasquale's Manali, out toward the Garden District, where barbecue shrimp, it's unbelievable. So great. And I would say anytime I'm in New Orleans, I'll go to Pasquale's Manali for the barbecue shrimp. In fact, there's probably people on this chat right now that I've seen there dining the night before a game. Okay, what do we got here? Any changes on the medical side or type of practice to help prevent injury bug over the years? I don't think so. I think it was kind of seen as, every injury is different. I don't think there was any kind of common thread. I guess the only change was that Dustin Perry has been promoted to, from strength and conditioning to vice president, or is it what is his exact role? He's been promoted to head of human performance. Let's get you the exact title here. I guess it'd be easier if I just did it there, but let's see what the exact title is. Let's see. Vice President of Player Health and Performance. There you go, Dustin Perry. What else we have here? Will 49ers wear new uniforms this season? I don't believe so. Have they announced? I don't think they've announced yet. They have to put that out there before the season starts, of what days they're wearing uniforms. However, now that you mentioned that, I'm so glad you did. Let me just take a look at where the 49ers could do something out of the norm this year. Where is it? Where can I find it? Oh, yeah, here we go. Let's go. Yep, here we go. Here's something to keep an eye on. And I'm predicting it right now. The 49ers have always worn their traditional red jerseys at home, always. Now, in the preseason, they've worn their whites, but in the regular season, they've never, to my knowledge, worn their traditional whites. Now, they have had the throwback whites, but never the traditional white road jerseys at home. I think that changes this year. September 21, when the 49ers play the Cardinals. September 28, when the 49ers play the Jaguars. I think they'll wear the white jerseys this year. And then that's probably it, because then they go on the road for 2 weeks. They return October 19th against Atlanta. Maybe they wear those as well. But I would say the first 2 home games of the year, I expect them to wear the white jerseys, and maybe even their third game, October 19th against the Falcons, they could wear those white jerseys. Let's see here. Here's a good one. Do you read, well, I don't know if it's a good one or not, but do you read into any of the Brandon Aiyuk drama? I know people really buy into some of his social media posts, most recently his picture of T.O. doing sit-ups in the driveway in front of the media. I don't know what that means, but it did give me an opportunity to watch a clip of T.O. doing that. Absolutely comedy gold. It was fantastic. So I don't know why Brandon did that or what the point was. Remember, Terrell Owens' son, Tariq Owens, is on the 49ers 90-man roster. But I will tell you this, and I did not ask Leonard Hankerson, the wide receivers coach, the question because of that. In fact, I don't think I knew about any of that while I was asking Leonard Hankerson the story. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'll go ahead and post. Let's see if I can just do that link. But I did ask him about, what Brandon Aiyuk is able to do right now to kind of get himself ready for the season, even though he can't be out there on the field. And so I will post that link right here. There it is. And what he said, well, you can read the story. Hankerson said he's kind of challenged Brandon to be kind of an assistant wide receivers coach, and that he's really embraced it and has helped him look through the eyes of the coaching staff and help the young players as well. So, I just don't buy anything too much into the drama. What else do we got here? Okay, so TC says, dang, my question got skipped. LOL. Am I going to have to go up there and find your question? Oh, here we go. Do the 49ers bring in a vet like Allen or Cooper at wide receiver if they think Pearsall and Aiyuk injuries will linger? They could. Yeah, absolutely. They could. But I would think that would be more of a mid-training camp type of thing for them. Or now you're talking about 2 players there who don't have teams right now. Also a possibility of that being something the 49ers could look into at the trade deadline, depending on where they may or may not need additional bodies. Is Brandon Aiyuk there, or is he attending meetings via Zoom? I'm under the impression he's there. I haven't seen him, so I don't know that for sure. But from what I'd been hearing was that he's been working out daily, and he's been there. So, I think he's there. I I haven't seen him, so I can't confirm that with my own eyeballs, but I think he's there. Well, what else? Who else is going to not be here? Me. I think that's probably a good spot to end this 49ers Live. I want to thank you all for tuning into this. How do you guys like this this YouTube thing? I know it's not exactly new YouTube. I'm not like breaking new ground here, but I'm coming up on my 1 year anniversary of doing YouTube, and we'll we'll see. We'll keep this thing going. Kind of continue on the same rhythm I think that we have in the past. Not going to go all in on YouTube. But please follow my stuff at NBC Sports Bay Area.com and everything else. And just want to thank you all for tuning in, for showing interest in what it is that I have to say. And again, thanks to everybody. I appreciate you. And as I say on those videos, and that is it for now.